a bit more my style. I'm alive, I'm revived, I survived. You surprised, gonna cry about it? You should see the other guy. I'm returned and I've waited my turn. A decade of time to make everything mine. This is my sunrise, this is my dawn. This is what I've waited for all along. All of this time, all this is mine. Mine, 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 all mine. Shut up and listen, cause I'm back and I found my will to live. I'll say I'm sorry, but you don't have to forgive. Cause regardless, I'm moving on regardless to the next big thing. A throne will always await a king. But now the train's up the station, the ticket price and my patience. A decade stuck in location to misery and damnation. And now I see the causation of all this pain and frustration. It's everything that I've taken. Oh yes, I love the nation. If something's wrong with me, I'm better now that I'm free. Cause I've seen the other side and now I'm back where I wanna be. It was 13 and a half years I spent on that platform in hell, but I've come back hell bent. White streak in my hair, but no stress now. Train out the guys looking like a mess now. Driving off the tracks, but I'm back and I've seen hell, but this is a bit more my style. I'm alive, I'm revived, I survived. You surprised, gonna cry about it? You should see the other guy. I'm returned and I've waited my turn. A decade of time to make everything mine. White streak in my hair, and I'm not going back there. And if there's one thing that I'll swear, I'll be back for a while, kids, so go ahead and smile. What am I fighting for? Whose side am I on? Lost everything in the crossfire. Witness the wreckage at dawn. Say it enough and you start believing. They can tell you that it's righteous. Keep your chin up in the crisis. Say it enough and you start believing in the glory and the justice. They will drill it into your head. Ain't no crying till the war's done. Ain't no crying cause the fighting's just begun. No crying till the sun comes. Till the sun comes up. Till the sun comes up. Ain't no crying. No crying. No crying. No. Ain't no crying. No crying. No crying. No. Ain't no crying. No crying. No crying till the sun comes up. Till the sun comes up. In the division, make your decision. Every shoulder you've leaned on is the one you will turn on. Burn it to ashes, watch as it crashes. Nobody left to forgive or forget. Say it enough and you start believing. They can tell you that it's righteous. Keep your chin up in the crisis. Say it enough and you start believing in the glory and the justice. They will drill it into your head. Ain't no crying till the war's done. Ain't no crying cause the fighting's just begun. No crying till the sun comes. Till the sun comes up. Till the sun comes up. Ain't no crying. No crying. No crying. No. Ain't no crying. No crying. No crying. No. Ain't no crying. No crying. No crying till the sun comes up. Till the sun comes up. Whoa. What am I fighting for? What have I done? Whoa. What am I dying for? What have we all become? Whoa. Make you live through
Hello.
pressure.
Yes, I changed my little PNG. I've been working on it for a little while now. Hi. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, I don't have much to say. My PC was being very funky when I decided to start streaming, so I'm a little late. So we're gonna push it probably to 5:30. Yeah. Hope your day's going well. Hope you're drinking lots of water, staying hydrated. Whatever is PC. Exactly. I don't even know what's going on with it. I'm doing well. I just did some gaming with my partner, and now I am. Before this, we were just discussing. I brought up the idea of possibly spending our honeymoon in a hobbit hole. I want to go live in a hobbit hole. That's what I want with my life. So Anyway. Yeah, today we are we're reading Reddit stories today. We're doing Let's Not Meet, which are spooky, creepy stories that have happened in real life. I have 10 tabs open, lurking in 9 other streams. Oh my gosh. Alright, so let's get Reddit up here, and we're gonna turn off Dereva Cat. What a queen, love her. And we're gonna go over to our dark ambiance. There we go, and hop over to our Let's Not Meet. Yes! So spooky, so great. Okay. I also, something I want to mention for anyone watching VODs or stream or whatever, I have put up new, in my About section, I have added a few things, and that includes our milestones. So I have milestones up to 10,000 followers because I like to prepare in advance. 100 followers, we'll be doing the hand reveal, which I have on the screen, and we'll be doing hand cam for gaming streams. At 500, we'll be doing an eye reveal on Twitter. 1,000 Minecraft server for you guys to play on with me. 2,000 is a body reveal, which is neck and below. 3,000 will be an office tour, which is an IRL stream. 4,000 will be doing Jackbox games. 5,000 chat controls my Minecraft stream. 6,000 cooking stream. 7,000 baking stream. 8,000 hair reveal and haircut. 9,000 Discord movie night, and 10,000 Phasmophobia stream with any mods who want to stream with me. So that's what I have going right now. I like to have goals for myself and for chat because it helps me stay motivated and want to keep going. So those can be found on my Twitch About section. But yeah, so let's get into it. Let's filter these, or at least attempt to filter these. Sometimes there's no filter. Okay. We have the Let's Not Meet Reddit community. How close are you to being affiliated? Very close. We just need to hit 50 followers, basically, and I need, we're very close to having 3 consecutive viewers. That's what we need. We need 3 average viewers. But yeah, besides that, we have hit every other milestone. The other ones aren't an issue because I stream every single day. So, okay, let's do new ones. Let's do the newest ones because that'd be fun. Alright, newest one was 3 days ago. It's called Footsteps in My House. When I was 15, I remember I had to go to the movies with my friends in the afternoon, and my parents were working at the time. When I left home, I was late, and suddenly I totally forgot to lock my home once the film was over, and I went home. My parents was over. Oh my gosh. What is going on? When I left home, I was late, and suddenly I totally forgot to lock my home. Once the film was over, I went home to my parents, who finished at 8 p.m. Were not there. The grammar in this is like messing me up so much. I'm so sorry. Okay, we're gonna skip this one because I genuinely can't read this. I feel like I'm having a stroke. Okay, we're gonna move on to late night visitors. This story happened to me back when I still lived at my parents' house. I was commuting to college at the time and had 3 siblings that also lived at home, my brother and 2 sisters. For some context, we lived on 5 acres in rural Ohio, surrounded on both sides by woods and farm fields. Additionally, during the week, my dad normally left for work at 2 a.m., so I always had felt like it was my job to be the man of the house because he was gone during the times when you would imagine something sketchy happening. However, on this night, because it was the weekend, my dad was home. I woke up to the sound of my brother's voice trying to get my attention. We had separate rooms upstairs, and coming out of our rooms, you could look down the banister to see our front door. When I woke up, it took a few moments to get out of the haze and realize what was going on. I looked at the clock, and it was around 2:30 a.m. And my brother told me there were two men at our front door. Of course, now this is a real wake-up call. We quietly walk out of the room and peek over to look down at the front door. When we looked, there was no one at the door, but I noticed my parents off to the side, out of view of the glass in the front door. I whispered down to my dad, and he told me there were two guys who'd been talking to each other and knocking on the door. Hearing my dad say this freaked me out even more. I went back to my room and grabbed my pistol, quickly shuffling down the stairs and looking to make sure they weren't at the door. If they had been, they would have easily seen me coming down the stairs, as it is in direct view of the door. My brother is right behind me as we head over to where my parents are, whispering to try and find out what's going on. My parents had woken up to our dog barking and came out to see these two men knocking loudly at the door. At this point, we see the men return, and they begin knocking again, despite the fact that no one had come to the door and our dog was still actively barking. The fact that they were there at this time, in a location where houses are spread out hundreds of yards, and still knocking while the dog was barking, made the situation even more terrifying. After a couple minutes, the men walked away, and we all shuffle across the kitchen into the family room to peek out the windows into our driveway, which is lit up by our outside light. There was a black Cadillac sitting there, but nobody was inside from what we could see. Immediately the question was, where did the guys go? They weren't in their car, and they were no longer at the front door. Unfortunately, we figured out the answer when the handles on our back French doors started jiggling. They were actively trying to enter the back of our house, which enters the kitchen. At this point, I just remember my mother frantically saying "David" as pure terror overwhelmed her. At this point, two things happened. Adrenaline filled my body as I prepared my handgun, horrified at the real possibility that I might have to shoot these men. Secondly, my dad grabbed the phone, called the police, and calmly told them what was happening. Thankfully, after a minute of jiggling, they stopped at the back door and disappeared again, only to return to knocking at the front. However, at this point, several minutes had gone by, and suddenly we saw the local police fly up in multiple cruisers with their lights on. As they whipped into our driveway and front yard, the two men bolted away, attempting to run the long way around the house across the driveway. One of them disappeared out of our view, but the other one was intercepted by an officer yelling for him to get on the ground. He didn't, and he was immediately tased and fell on the ground. Some of the officers went around the house after the other guy, and some of them came to talk to my dad and I as we came out the front. They ended up finding the other man hiding in my sister's little playhouse in the backyard. It appears both of them were drunk or high, as the one who hid had cocaine on him. While they were both arrested that night, we never did find out what they were charged with or what happened to them. Needless to say, the whole experience wasn't fun. So, random men at our front door in the middle of the night? Let's not meet again. Interesting. Sketchy, call the cops, run, just get away from there. Literally. All I can think of is like, yeah, that is definitely terrifying, but like, the men trying to get in are dumb. Like, if they can't get in the front door, why do you keep knocking and jiggling the door? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you okay? I'm looking at the comments. People are skeptical about this story for some reason. One person said, "Don't take this the wrong way, but law enforcement got to the house that fast in a rural area." And the OP said, "Fair question. Where we lived was a rural setting, but not in the middle of nowhere. We lived near a city of about 30,000 people, with police probably 7 to 10 minutes away." The cops didn't shoot them dead. Are you sure this story is true? creepy. Guys were arrested and you weren't called as witnesses at trial or anything? No follow-up information, no reports or anything? Nothing? There's some weird people out there. There are. Okay, this one says it's long. We're gonna go for it. I am never exploring ever again. Okay. Now, this is something I really want to talk about to be sure that everyone is cautious and stays level-headed at these times. For context, I lived in the middle of nowhere in Canada. I'm up near Canada. That's cool. Anyway. That's very comforting. It was an old town that had quite a few abandoned buildings due to an absence of residents. Me and my friends were tired of the lack of entertainment options for us, so what we did was explore these abandoned buildings. Oh, that's so smart. How very, very smart of you. Now, when I was younger, I used to go to daycare that was part of a mental hospital. Weird combination? I know. It was closed down due to the lack of patients and lack of children at the daycare. I decided to go back with my friends a few years ago. For context, I was 15 when this happened, and most of my friends were the same age. I also know a few other streamers who are in Canada. Yeah, I'm up near it. I'm not in Canada, but I'm fairly close. I'm basically in Canada. That's not where I live, though. It's just where my school is. When we did get there, it was rather cliche. There was fog, it was rather dark, and there was a light drizzle of rain. We went to the main gate, which was padlocked shut. We decided to help each other hop over it and made a ton of noise. We were laughing and giggling the whole time, unsuspecting of what was to come. We looked around the small play place/park with flashlights we had on our person. Even with our somewhat powerful flashlights, our visibility was rather limited. We decided to enter the daycare building. Glass and dirt crunched under our feet as we stepped into the daycare section of the complex. There were still old Legos, wood chips from previous furniture, old torn dolls, and toys strewn about. The further we walked around the daycare section, we naturally became more and more silent until all we could hear was the crunch of the dirt under our feet. I found some crayons in a plastic container on the counter of the room. I walked over to pick them up when all of a sudden we heard a loud crash coming from behind a metal door leading to the psych ward part of the building. My friends and I all looked at each other. As a whole, we were a group of 5. Most of them were very bold and cocky. We all looked at each other when my friend Brian suggested we go and look and see where the sound came from. Personally, I wasn't fond of this idea, but with my group of friends, there was no way anyone was going to decline such a thing. Going to the crazy daycare, great idea. Exactly. Like, why? Why do you do that? You silly geese. We all stacked up on the door and opened it. It was rusted to the floor, and we heaved to get it open. As we walked in, the metallic sounds and must became stronger, with a hint of something else, which I couldn't put my finger on at that moment. We walked in, our flashlights pointed in every direction, with Brian leading the group. The hallways were tight, and to the left and right were the occasional metal doorway, some with doors open. I felt slightly claustrophobic, and it felt hard to breathe. As we continued, Brian shone his flashlight into a room and recoiled. We all stopped walking as Brian slowly entered the room. "What is it?" I asked him. "I thought I saw someone in here. Seems all fine now." To be honest, I thought he was just messing with us to increase our anxiety. But looking back on it, I think he was completely honest. He backed out of the room and we continued walking deeper into the psych ward. When another friend swiftly told us to stop, we came to a halt and all listened. In the distance ahead of us, we heard the subtle pitter-patter of footsteps echo through the hallway. We all looked at each other, fear in each of our eyes. Brian continued walking toward the sounds. We considered turning back for a second without Brian, wondering if some ghost or something was in the building. But we couldn't do that to him. The closer we got, the more I felt like I was being watched. When finally we entered a room on the right which had a smell of rotting meat. In front of us was a dead deer. Its innards were spilled all over the floor, staining the concrete. A friend of mine had a very weak stomach and vomited all over the floor. That's when we heard whispering from somewhere. Brian shone his flashlight into the corner of the room where a man with short hair was standing with his head down. He wore a bright green t-shirt stained with what I assumed was blood and torn beige pants. He did not have any socks and his feet seemed damaged. He was twitching sporadically and continued to mumble even after we saw him. We stared at him for a solid 30 seconds before he made his true movement. He looked up at us with a haunting grin and sent shivers down our spine. "You guys here for the feast?" he said, each word with varying inflection and energy. This kicked us over the edge and we bolted out of that room all the way back to the daycare center. The door was still open and we decided to try and slam it shut, but the rust and pure weight of the door almost kept it open. It took 3 of us pulling with all our strength to close it, and just before we did, I could see the silhouette of the man watching us, his white teeth being the only other human feature I could see. As we sat at the metal door, each of us catching our breath, all looking at each other for confirmation that we saw the same thing. After a little bit of labored breathing from each of us, we heard a light tapping on the door. That's when we decided it was time to leave. We booked it out of the vicinity completely and ran home. A year after we visited that spot, police went back to do a routine search of the area and found the man. It was stated the guy used to go to the psych ward before it was closed down. He escaped the facility he was transferred to and lived off the wildlife around the complex. When the cops brought him in, he had a series of diseases and sickness from eating raw meat. His mental condition was much worse than before. There were future rumors that he did kill someone in the forest while searching for food, but nothing has been confirmed. In the end, guys, be careful, especially in dangerous areas such as creepy abandoned buildings. Alright, first of all, why would you go into a creepy abandoned building? I know it's fun, I know that, oh, haha, we some silly little kids. Why would you do that? It's dangerous. Why would you do that? At least get a permit and have someone check the area before you do that. Like you good, fam? Good? Okay. Comments. That would have been terrifying. Such a great story. Someone is thinking this is false. A psych ward and childcare in the same building. Into this sentence, "You guys here for the feast?" He said each word with varying inflection and energy. Yeah, it's being reviewed to see if it's something that's true. To be fair, where I am, at least, I mean, they combine daycares with weird things. Currently, one of the buildings at my school, it's a daycare for kids, and it's a third-year daycare, which is for adults. And it's combined with a school for college students and for kids. It's a weird combination. It's really weird to be a college kid and walking around that building and just seeing little kids being pushed around in the strollers and stuff. I don't know. The man with a stick. This happened probably 5 or 6 years ago. I think I was 18 at the time. For starters, I lived in a city where neighborhoods and forests kind of blend together. There are plenty of wooded areas where people go to have bonfires and parties. One night, after discovering that all of our usual spots were crowded with people, I suggested we go to a spot that I had been to a few times nearby. I had been there multiple times, but only during the day. The street where we park is maybe 200 feet from the tree line, and it's your average middle-class neighborhood. Nothing crazy is really known to happen there. So, we walk in, start a bonfire, and we're all having a good time. Some of us are drinking and smoking a bit, myself included. About 45 minutes pass, and I'm a little intoxicated, but nothing major. In the sound of our quiet music and my friends talking, I hear something odd. I can't make out what it is, so I figure maybe I'm just hearing things. Maybe another 10 minutes go by and I hear it again. A little better this time. It sounds relatively far away, but it sounds like Velcro tearing. I stop and just kind of sit there trying to listen while my friends carry away laughing and talking. They haven't seemed to notice. That's when I heard a sound I was very familiar with. A zapping noise, like you hear from a taser. Very brief, but unmistakable. My stomach drops, and I start looking around a little frantically. My girlfriend at the time was the first to notice my distress. She asks me what's wrong, and I explain, and she immediately starts worrying. She gets my friends to quiet down. We all just sit there and listen for a bit, and then we all hear it. An electric zap. Brief again, but we all know that sound. We all start panicking a bit and quickly put out the fire while we ask each other what that was, or where exactly it was coming from. We're all scared to walk out. It's only maybe a 5-minute walk to the street, but it's dark. We all muster the courage to finally walk the path out, and we don't run into anyone. We finally get to the street and start walking to our cars, nervously laughing and relishing being under street lamps again. I see him first. He's walking toward us. Not at us, just walking in the direction we just came from. Slightly to the right of us, he's holding a stick of some sort. It scared me at first, but for a brief second I calmed myself. It was a pretty safe neighborhood that I knew really well, and it was really common to see people out walking at night, but then I noticed he's looking right at us. That stare is burned into my mind. We pass each other. My friends and I are all silent as we're having this stare down with some random man. And that's when it happened. He doesn't break eye contact, holds up the pole and smiles this creepy smile. His eyes are open, so wide, and the end of his stick lights up bright, and that same zapping sound happens again, much louder this time. He's holding a cattle prod. We live in a city, no farmland nearby, no reason to have a cattle prod. My friends and I are silently shitting ourselves as he walks past us maybe 20 feet away and goes straight into the woods without a flashlight or anything. We all got into our cars and peeled out of there. We never went back to that spot. Think you and your friends made the right choice to leave. I think he was trying to scare your group, which he succeeded, but that was a weird way to get attention. There's probably a reason he didn't want you guys over there. Maybe he does something or has hid something there. He sounds like he intentionally was trying to scare you so you would never come back. True. Interesting. Or he was a maniac. Yeah, that is incredibly plausible. I want to switch it up a little bit and go to the top ones now. Have you played Fears of Fathom 3 yet? No, not yet. I'm just not in the mood for it. Let's do some top ones from the past week. Or not. There's not enough for the top ones for the past week. Let's do top for the past month then. See what that gets us. Okay. This one won 2 awards. I hid in my bathroom in the midst of a home invasion when I was 9 years old. First of all, this is my first post, and I am from a Spanish-speaking country, so my English can be a little rough at times. Okay. So about 12 years ago, I was 9 years old, and I was home alone with my 12-year-old brother. We were supposed to go to my aunt's house to have lunch and wait for my mother there. We always did that because we were too young to stay home alone, according to my mom. We got up at 10:30 a.m., took a shower, then my brother. I took a shower, then my brother. After that, we were both in the bathroom brushing our teeth and finishing up when we heard someone knocking on our door. Since every time someone knocked on our door, they turned out to be a salesman or Jehovah's Witnesses, we kind of just waited for them to go away. After a couple minutes, I went to see if they were still outside through the window, and no one was there. What a relief. We continued getting ready when we saw a shadow go by in the bathroom window, which was kind of like a small square made of kind of glass that makes everything behind it really blurry. We waited and saw in case it was just a bird flying by, when a hand hit it clear as day. We got scared. We didn't know what to do. My brother had a cell phone, so immediately called the police. While it was ringing, we heard a loud bang at the door. Someone was brute forcing it. I don't know if they were kicking it or ramming it, but it was one of the most frightening things I've ever heard. My brother told me to go to lock the bathroom door, so I did. It took 5 bangs so the perpetrator could finally bash open the door. Then the police answered. I remember the exact thing my brother said. He was whispering. His voice could barely be heard. Hello, there's someone in our house. I think they're stealing. Then a pause. We were at, and then their address. Another pause. I'm with my little brother locked in our bathroom. Please hurry. While all that, I was sitting against the wall hugging my knees. It was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences ever. I could hear the man going through all our stuff, emptying stands, going up and down the stairs, opening cabinets. He even broke a few cups and plates. I don't know why. Then I heard the sound my cell phone does when it turns off, and I remembered leaving it on the kitchen table. I felt so stupid for leaving it there. Things continued for a couple minutes when we heard him trying to open the door to the bathroom. My brother got a hold of a big metal rod we had lying around there. He started kicking the door. Who's there? The man screamed. We said nothing. Oh, the man screamed, who's there? We said nothing. Another kick, then another. I felt like I was about to have an anxiety attack. My chest started to ache. I had chills and was really hot. I tried to remain calm, but it was too much. After that, he stopped. We heard the door opening, then silence. We waited for almost 10 minutes before going out of the bathroom. The living room was a total mess. Lots of papers and books on the floor. Cabinets were open, cups and plates on the floor. In our mother's bedroom, the nightstand and the closet were open, and everything inside them was all over the place. Upstairs in our room, it was the same thing. In about 5 minutes, the man was able to go through everything we had and left a total mess. After that, my brother called my mom, and she ordered us to go to my aunt's ASAP, so we did. When we got there, I was a little more relaxed. My aunt was waiting with ice cream, probably because my mom told her everything and she wanted to calm us down a bit. We went back home at about 1700, I don't know, 5 o'clock. My mom told her boss that she had an emergency, so she left early. She tidied up the house, cleaned up, and left everything the way it was before so we could be relaxed. I really appreciate her effort and my aunts to calm us down and do everything so we didn't have to think about it. According to my mom, the police got home after she arrived at 1500, 4 hours after the incident, so 3 o'clock. She explained everything, but because of lack of evidence, nothing could be done. The man was never caught, and honestly, I don't think they even tried to search for him. The next days, my mom was home with us. Now I tell the story as a funny anecdote. Luckily, no one was hurt, and he only took useless stuff. But at the same time, I was really scared. To a 9-year-old, an experience like that can have serious repercussions. I'm lucky it never came to that, and I got over that after a couple weeks. So yeah, that's my story. Edit. Thanks to everyone for their support. I didn't think this would make so many upvotes. Many replies are related to the 4 hours it took the police to get there. My house was located on the far side of the city, but most important, and as I already replied to some, the police in my country sucked. If you ask around, chances are plenty of people that have called the police and had to wait for hours, so now they arrive upon a reasonable amount of time. But back then, news about how long it took for them to respond were common. In fact, one of the reasons for the 2019 Chilean protests was in the dislike for police labor. Interesting. Yeah, most people are just talking about the police. Glad you and your brother got out of that situation unharmed. What did he take? I can't remember exactly what he took. I do remember my cell phone, my mom's savings, and some of her jewelry. He also took 2 pairs of shoes. I don't know why, because they were cheap though. Oh, someone's complimenting their English. Stalked? Whoa! Stalked for 15 years. I want to read this one. Water break. Gotta always have that water, you know. Okay, stalked for 15 years. So I'm a 28-year-old woman, and this happened to me when I was 13. I'm an adult now, and I'm still kind of traumatized. I would be too, don't worry. For a little context, at 13, I transferred schools because of lack of money. This school I went to was a cheaper private school because where I lived, the public ones kind of sucked. I didn't have any friends for at least the first couple of months. I started noticing this boy, Victor. He was always staring at me during classes, in the hallways, by the window, and at lunch. It was an everyday thing, and I didn't care because as a kid I only thought stupid stuff like dolls or whatever. Oh, and one more thing. I was as flat as a table back then. So, totally looked like a small child. Okay. The girls in my class started saying that Victor had a crush on me, which creeped me out because he was 18. I was creeped out, but still didn't care as long as he didn't approach me or anything. This girl's got the right mindset. Good for you. But things escalated quickly. Victor would follow me home every day. Thank goodness I moved since then, and he doesn't know where I live anymore. The most annoying thing, however, is that he constantly asked his friends to try to talk to me and try to convince me to go out with him and make out with him after school. These talks would usually take about 30 minutes of them trying so hard to convince me to agree with this, while Victor was behind them watching the conversation like a freak. Obviously, I rejected him all the time, but being the nice guy that he was, in quotes, he spread rumors about us making out anyway. Nobody believed anyway because he was such a weird guy and the whole school knew it. The final straw was when our school had a trip to a book fair, and I was super excited. At this point, I had made a couple of friends. On our way to this fair, I was on the bus with my friend, and Victor was 3 seats behind us, and I could feel his eyes on me the whole way. Out of nowhere, he came and asked for my friend's cell phone. And she gave it to him. So stupid of her. He returned her cell phone not even 2 minutes after. He got her phone number. She checked the cell phone and showed me he had taken a bunch of photos of me. Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. I guess this was his way of saying that he had already done this at some point. She got so mad and went to go talk to him. When she returned, she said, "The creepiest thing I've heard in my life." She said this with a very scared face. He said to me that when you least expect it, he'll push you into a bathroom and, today. The only thing that went through my mind was, what should I do now? I looked at him and he gave me a creepy smile. After this, I spent the whole day looking behind my back, not leaving the side of my teacher. She didn't understand why I didn't want to walk around at the fair. I was in alert mode all the time, and thank goodness nothing happened. When I came home, I cried in my room like a baby. This was the end of the year, and thankfully I switched schools again. I told this to my mom last year, and she was like, "Yeah, it happens. It happened to me too when I was your age." So shocked about how this is such a common thing. I'm now 28, and I still see Victor on the streets. He's followed me around a few times. I always walk in circles until I lose him, but sometimes he waits for me outside of the stores or restaurants. I think about what would have happened to me at the book fair if I didn't have the teacher next to me the whole time, and I wondered if one day he'll do something or just keep this creepy behavior, I would immediately file a sexual assault case. So you're getting into hard territory there because nothing did happen. So all you can do is people would only be able to take your word for it. And when it comes to little girls that age, that young, it's sad, but a lot of people don't believe them because they think it's a cry for attention. And I don't think that anything would have gone well for her at that age. However, now that she is older, I would say if he's still stalking her, then file a restraining order. That's what you can do, you know? It's way creepier too because he's 18. Like, he's a full adult doing that. If I found out that this happened to my daughter at that age, I'd be so mad. Yeah, it happens. Well, it shouldn't. I hope she didn't downplay it as much as it sounds from your post. My daughter was 10. Oh. Yeah, but it happens is not a response any parent or guardian should be giving at any age. I 100% agree. This man is creepy as heck. Nah, heck is less creepy than he is. I agree. Whoa. Okay. We'll do Hooded Man in the Woods. And then we're gonna do another stalking one. Alright. I spent my entire slow day at work yesterday reading through the sub, so now I want to share my little story. My childhood best friend, Marie, and I were around 11 or 12 years old at the time. Marie's family had their own campsite in a provincial park about 2 hours from our hometown and would spend the entire summer each year living in their camper out there. This particular summer, I was able to go and stay with them for a week, and we were really excited to spend our time adventuring around the forest. On the last night that I was there, we decided we wanted to hurry down to the ice cream shop by the lake before it closed. It was early evening at this point. Still pretty bright out, but beginning to lose light. The path we took was down a short slope, right next to the main road, maybe 10 feet of thick brush and trees in between. On the other side was the forest, with more tall, thick brush. So we were walking along, not seeing a single other person on the path, or in front or behind us. We hear a sudden rustling and snapping of the branches, similar to the sound of maybe a deer moving through the woods. I wouldn't have thought anything of it. But then, the sound of running footsteps follows. More glances back, and suddenly something grabs my arm, urging me under her breath. Oh, her friend. Her friend grabs her arm, urging me under her breath not to look back. At the same time, the running stops. I don't know why I didn't ignore her and get a look myself. I guess I could sense the really very real fear in her voice and chose to listen. That gave me chills. Gonna lurk for an hour or less. No problem. That gave me chills. Ew. We both start to panic, getting the feeling like when you're running up the stairs after turning off the basement light off. I know the feeling exactly. We pick up speed as much as we can without breaking into a sprint, knowing that the ice cream shop is only about a minute away at this point. The path soon breaks, and we're in a parking lot. Suddenly, Marie steers me hard to the left, heading toward the lake and the boat rental instead of continuing straight to the ice cream shop, and I go with it, along with it silently. I don't know, wait. I would have just kept going to the ice cream shop, like as fast as you could, because you know that there's at least someone there. You know? Anyway. And I go along with it silently, understanding ice cream is no longer an interest right now. Marie is clearly panicking at this point. We're both looking around, but it seems whatever scared her is nowhere in sight at this point. Marie walks up to the boat rental and gets us a kayak, and we climb in it and begin to paddle out in the middle of the lake. As we paddle, she tells me that there is a man behind us, and that man had stopped running at us very abruptly upon making eye contact with her. He had been wearing a long black coat with the hood up despite it being the middle of July, and had a terrible smirk on his face, and she swore that as he stopped running she saw him put something shiny away in his coat. He appeared to have just emerged out of the bushes after we walked past, given the sounds we heard right before he came running onto the path. Ugh. Disgusting. Okay. We reached the center of the lake and stopped paddling. I pulled out. Your what? Your Nokia brick phone? That my parents had? Okay. Sorry. This is serious. Thank goodness, given me just in case. I hand it to Marie and tell her to call her parents to come pick us up. As the phone rings, I see her look past me to the shore and go pale, lifting a hand to point at what she's seeing. I turn, and there was the man, stalking his way around the path that circled the edge of the lake, staring out at us. We sat in the middle of the lake and watched him do 2 full laps, never looking away from us before finally disappearing. It took a few tries to get a hold of her family. We were freaking out so bad the whole time. As the sun got lower and lower, we did manage to have someone come out with the truck, and by the time we reached the shore, it was pretty dark outside. I don't know what we would have done if we hadn't been able to call for a ride. Looking back, I don't know why we didn't just go to the ice cream shop, inform an adult there, and ask her parents to come get us then. Okay, at least you thought about it. But it worked out. We got back safe, and thankfully never saw the man again. An edit, way too many people have messaged asking to use the story in their podcast and YouTube. If you want to use it, I don't care. Credit or don't credit. I just tell you you're far from the only one. Whew, okay, sorry. Whew, I felt cold chill going on. That gave me cold chills. The things that are very, like, realistic and, like, could 100% happen in real life. Like this. I know that all of these, or majority of these, have happened to people, but this is, like, more likely to happen. Those things scare me more than any ghost or supernatural creature ever will. It's horrifying. Like, it's actually terrifying. Oh my gosh. Especially when you're a kid. Bruh. Absolutely not. Gotta wonder what that dude was up to. Murder. Seems like it. He was trying to reach them about their vehicle's extended warranty, and the shiny thing was a metal clipboard with paperwork on it. Oh my gosh. It's for real estate. If you had a Nokia brick phone, the hooded man was actually the one in danger. That's funny. People are cracked. What's going on? For posterity, I'll say this. If you or anyone has a similar experience to this, report it to the police and give a description of the person. You never know what crimes may have been reported in the area, and honestly, people like this often are repeat offenders. True. Camping is scary, right? Not in an enjoyable way, right? That's so true. All right. That was a good one. Oh my gosh, that gave me chills. I'm so sorry to the OP if that ever happened to you, and I'm really glad that you are safe. I'm curious about this one. Let's read this one. Ballroom dance classes led to getting stalked for 8 years by idiot_s-witch 19 days ago. I apologize if I have some errors. English is not my first language, and this will be a long post. Sorry. It's not marked as long. Anyway, for context, I'm now 26, and I met my stalker at 14, 15. So, when I was 14, I decided to take ballroom dance classes, which was kind of normal for teenagers in my generation in my country. That is awesome. Ballroom dancing is sick. They had to change partners with each song, so every girl would dance with every boy. In my group that consisted of mostly teens between 14 to 17, there was a really tall, almost 2 meter, 21-year-old guy, Philip. I don't know meters to feet. I'm assuming you say really tall. I'm gonna guess it's very tall. Okay. So, the stalking began. At that time, I didn't realize that it was stalking. I just thought he had much time, and that was annoying. Philip would ride on his bike from his home. He lived one town over to my house and asked if I wanted to spend time outside with him and play. After doing that a few times, I asked my parents to tell him that I was not home when he would come over. Both my parents and I were very oblivious about his actions for a very, very long time. At one point in time, the stalking ended for a few weeks, and Philip did not come to dance classes. At that point, I became part of a friend group of a boy I fancied. For some months, he had a girlfriend, but they split up soon after, and I became his girlfriend. Unfortunately, Philip was also friends with the best friend of my boyfriend, so he was also part of the group. When they told me Philip was in a mental hospital. Oh. In the span of his stalking, Philip was in mental hospitals multiple times, and every time he was, I was glad because I had some peace. When I was 16, my family and I had to move because our landlady had thrown us out. She wanted to live in the property herself, so we moved one town over. Oh no. We started living 2 streets apart from my stalker. And every time Philip was out of the hospital, he would be at my house. It was not as often, but still. At my father's birthday, he rang again, and because my family had guests, they told me to open the door, and there he was, looming over me like a dark, menacing shadow man. I told him to leave, and I tried to close the door, but he blocked it, so I was standing there, afraid, begging him to leave. At one time, I even ran inside to get my dad to send him away, but Dad said he's your friend, so it's your problem. So I went back to the door and begged and pleaded that Philip would please leave. At one point, he was kneeling and sitting on my doorway. For almost 2 hours, he finally left. And at that point, it was obvious for me. Finally, I had realized what type of behavior it was. He was a stalker, and he was fixated on me. The next day, I sat down with my parents and told them that I was afraid of Philip. My dad also apologized to me for putting me in that situation and not helping me. The next time Philip came to my house, my dad was there and told him that I do not want any contact with him, so he left. After a few more incidents like that, he stopped showing up at my door and I thought we got rid of my stalker. But every time I started to live happily, starting to forget my fear of him, a letter, an email, or a gift showed up and would send me back into my fears. At 20, I was out of school, and to pass a year, I had to wait to start my job. I worked in a grade school, in a voluntary after-school care club for grade schoolers. After a month or two, my mom woke me up in the morning and told me to get dressed because she called the cops. Oh, apparently Philip was again, every morning, at her house and asked for me, and my parents didn't tell me so I wouldn't get scared again. Finally, after the cops told Philip 3 times to leave and he ignored them, they arrested him, and he screamed and screamed my name and that he was burning for me, and the cops hurt him. My parents and I were standing at the kitchen listening. The situation was so absurd and so much for me that I started laughing hysterically. We filed a report at the police for stalking and trespassing, but the officer said that they could not do anything because he hadn't hurt me physically. We tried to get a restraining order, but it didn't go through. A week later, Philip had sneaked into our garden, and like a movie, he threw rocks at my window. Throwing rocks at girls' windows is not romantic, it's creepy. I agree. Idiot me opened the window and didn't see anything until it clicked, and I ran downstairs and told my dad that my stalker was in my garden. Philip escaped. A week after that, I was in the kitchen cooking when Philip rang the doorbell again, and because we have no way of seeing who it is at the door, I opened it, and there he was again, telling me he missed me and saying that he had peeked through the blinds of the windows in the living room for the past week to see if I was there. My parents were not home. If they had been, I would have ran, but like this, I had to swallow my fear and stand in the doorway listening to Philip talk until my boyfriend, a different boyfriend, came. I had sent him an SMS, and he was on his way. After my boyfriend arrived, he told Philip to leave, and he did. Philip mentioned in passing that he now has a girlfriend. After that, I didn't see Philip again for a long time. A friend told me that he was taken by the men in white coats because he had believed his mom was possessed by the devil. I was glad. It wasn't until 2 years later when I got a letter from the court. I was a witness and was told to attend the case of assault of Philip. Apparently there was a coming out of the mental hospital. He had a big fight with his girlfriend and hit her, and because she was scared, she played dead. Philip called an ambulance and the police finally had something against him. After the hearing, he was admitted again to a mental hospital, and I finally got a restraining order, and he was ordered to stay at least 30 meters away from our property. I was so glad. The restraining order also implied that if he broke any of the requirements, he would go to jail. So, it was over. 2 years ago, I also moved out of my parents' house. I am posting this only now because I believe I'm seeing him again. But it can't be. He doesn't know where I live, and he also hasn't shown up at my parents' house, but I believe I've seen him when I leave the house. I just need reassurance it's not him again, and I'm safe in my home. You should stay vigilant, though, now that you're living alone. Never underestimate these kind of people. He already stalked you for years. That being said, I really hope it's not Philip. Me too. Wow. He's literally insane and stalked you for years. I believe he probably did find you again. Be careful. Please stay vigilant. My ex was contacting me up to 2 years ago, 11 years later. He wasn't as brazen as your stalker, but please stay safe. Not trying to scare you, but are you sure your stalker does not go to your parents' house? And why do you believe you're seeing him again? If you believe you're seeing him again, how would he know where you are currently living? Make sure social media is set in private. Moreover, no information to give you who you might be. I hope 2023 is better for you than what you had to deal with in the past. You should get some kind of security system. I agree. Wow, that was a fun one. Maybe like one or two more stories. This one's just called A Block Away from My Home, and I'm curious, so we're gonna read it. So this happened on Saturday. I, a 29-year-old female, live in a decent neighborhood. Not the best, but definitely not one usually thought of as super dangerous. It wasn't even that late, like 9:30 p.m., and it's summer in my country, so it'd been dark for almost an hour or two at most. I had left my friend taking transport back home, and since my friend had left in a rush, there was a thing I wanted to tell that I felt I would forget once I was home. But I got my phone taken from my hands a few months ago, so I was waiting until I was in a safe place to take it out. So I turned the corner, and it's literally 1 block from my house, and this was a pretty small street. I thought I was safe, and suddenly someone talks to me. His words were slurred, so I didn't quite get what he said, and it was dark. But after a moment, I understood he was telling me to give him my phone or my wallet or something. I stared, and despite the darkness, I saw something in his hand, which he was holding very much like a gun. I think it may have been fake, but still, I was terrified. Still, for some reason, I looked around, not so far away. Walking toward me was another woman. I screamed for help and ran away because from the man, all the while bracing myself for the pain in case the gun wasn't fake. And then the woman yelled at me to stop running and to get inside of the building closest to us, and we did. There, after having a panic attack, the woman told me the man had been next to a car that I didn't see because I was so fixated on the possible gun. I doubt the man wanted anything other than my phone, but still, the fact that he had a quick and easy escape, and there is still a possibility that I could have lost more than just my cell phone. To the woman and her friend who walked me that block home, and also to the door woman that gave me water when I was panicking, I'm sorry I didn't ask for your names or properly thank you, but you guys are my heroes. Oh. I'm gonna look at the hot posts because we're gonna read one more. Where's one more? He won't leave? This one's called He Won't Leave, bruh. Okay. It all started about a month ago when a man started banging on my door at 6 at night, yelling for a mic to come out. That he needs to see him and get cigarettes. I told him he had the wrong house and to leave. There's never been a mic in the house. He got even more aggressive, calling me a liar, and now he's going to come in and beat that skinny viewer that you live with. I tried to call the non-emergency police line because I've never called 911 before and they didn't pick up. Looking back, it was stupid, but it was instinct. After some yelling, he leaves. I called my father, who was across town, to come home, and what was going on, and he showed up. He called 911 to file a report. The guy came back and started screaming at him. Cops were called again, showed up an hour after the call, and couldn't find him, and told me to defend myself if it came to it. I ended up staying with a friend for the night because I didn't feel safe at home. I can be a strong person, but I don't think I can do much against a drugged out man. What made that situation even scarier to me is that as I was going through my driveway camera photos, it shows him walking up to my house hours before, and I had no clue. I had really bad anxiety, so the next few days were filled with paranoia and stress. But I managed to finally calm down and convince myself that was the end of it. Come that weekend, my father went on a trip with his girlfriend, so I was left home alone for a few days. I had just put on a scary movie when I heard screaming again and a loud bang. I pull up my camera to see he's back, pacing back and forth on the sidewalk, and is thrown over a trash can again, screaming for Mike. I call 911 and they show up within minutes this time, and they're able to stop him down the street. They tell me there's nothing that can be done since he hasn't committed a crime yet if he comes back to call again, and they'll have more reason to hold him. Things were quiet for a few weeks. I again believed that was the end of it until today. This morning, my father and I got in an argument, so I wanted to take a walk to clear my mind. I went across the street to a park and sat by a tree watching cars pass every now and then. Just a beautiful morning weather. I noticed a truck drive down the left side of the park and turn into the street my back is facing. He waved as he passed, so I did too, thinking it was just a man going into work. I wanted to show I was okay. He then pulls off to the right side of the park, stops, makes a U-turn to come back. Red flags instantly go off in my head, so I get up and start walking home. I look back and see he's turned off his headlights and he's trailing me. I get to the front of my house and he slows, and I get a better look at his face, and this time it looks like the man harassing me. From the physical characteristics to his red baseball cap, he just glared at me like I took everything in his life away from him. I get to the door and try to barge in, but my father put the chain on in anger of me walking out, so I had to yell to him that I was being followed and to open the door. He opens it, and by then the truck was gone down the street. I'm terrified to leave my home. I don't have a car to get anywhere quickly. I have to bike, but even now I'm scared to do that. I don't know who that man is or what his intentions were, but I live in paranoia, waiting. Okay, top comment. That sounds terrifying. You do know what the truck he drives looks like now, though, so that's a start. You'll be able to keep an eye out for him again just in case. I suggest leaving the house with at least a pen on you from now on, because if you see his truck again, you need to take down the license plate. If the area it's from is not yours, I know the UK has a different system than the US on license plates. Note that down too. I figure that you have a pen. If you have a pen and it's not feasible for you to take paper, you can write it on your hand or arm to record later. Since he stood outside your house for hours before announcing himself, you can at least check the cams every day to make sure he's not always showing up. If he is, see about getting a copy of the recording and starting a file to show a pattern of harassment, and if you see him following you, stalking. Be sure to note date, time, and place if you're out and about to record down the file. Hopefully, though, seeing you're not connected to Mike will make him see he's got the wrong address so that you will never see him again. Just to be clear, you've been dealing with a potentially dangerous, seemingly psychotic, and confrontational individual, and your father thought it was a good idea to chain the door and prevent you from being able to enter the home just because you had an argument. Maybe I'm the weird one, but no matter how mad I am at my loved one, I would never do anything to jeopardize their safety, especially if it were my daughter. I 100% agree with that. I'm a bit confused. How did he recognize you from the street when he hasn't seen you and is under the assumption that some Mike lives at your place? Or was that an interaction outside accidental? He believes Mike lives with another woman. One of the things he said when he started beating on my door the first time was, "Beat that skinny B-word that lives with you," assuming trying to talk to Mike. Like another commenter pointed out, he may have been stalking my house for a while. Thinking about it, I think I may have realized why he followed me from the park. When I left to go to a friend's house the night the first incident happened, I was wearing the same yellow sweater I decided to wear to the park. That makes sense. Okay. Well, that's gonna be our last one. We're gonna pop on over to the regular just chatting screen, and we're gonna stop our scary music and turn on Derivacat again. Well, that was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you for everyone who stopped by. Yeah, so a couple things. This week, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, I won't be streaming because I'm going home for the weekend to spend early Valentine's Day with my partner. Because I won't be able to spend actual Valentine's Day with them. So, keep an eye out. I'll be back on Monday with, Am I the Asshole? Yeah, that's about it. We're gonna get back on our normal streaming schedule for about 3 weeks, and then after that I got some things going on, but should be pretty consistent until then, so keep that in mind. I'll be posting that on Twitter. And yeah, so anyone watching on YouTube, if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. It takes 2 seconds and it's completely free, so you can always unsubscribe later. We're gonna see if there's any friends that we can raid today. Nope, nobody's streaming currently, so we're just gonna end. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on Monday for the next stream. Bye, guys.
I'm feeling my eyes get heavy again, but we won't sleep. No, we won't sleep. Keep me up till 4 a.m. I'll stay up for you. Keep me wrapped up in my phone and every minute, every second with you is another minute, another night you get me through. I'll stay with you until the dawn. Life, I'm telling myself it's just 5 more minutes. I'm feeling my eyes get heavy again, but we won't sleep. No, we won't sleep. Keep me up till 4 a.m. I'll stay up for you. Keep me wrapped up in my phone, internal deja vu. 'Cause with the audio visual, it's something additional. I hear and see your point of view. Keep me up till 4 a.m. I'll stay up for you. Say I'll stay awake and watch these restless nights turn into days. So say you'll stay up too. We know we're overdue for some shut-eye. Instead I surrender all my sleep to you. Keep me up till 4 a.m. I'll stay up for you. Keep me wrapped up in my phone, internal deja vu. 'Cause with the audio visual, it's something additional.